Hello everyone, and welcome to another Ninja.io video. In this one, I want to talk a little. I think it would be fun to talk a little bit about how I first got into Ninja.io, my first experiences with it, how I became known as Maxson the Camper, and all of that. So it's gonna be a little bit of a story, I guess. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching / listening. I first found Ninja.io in 2019, and I remember I was just searching on Google fun.io games to play because I was really bored, and I eventually found Ninja.io, and I played as a guest for a few rounds, thought it was fun, and then I made an account. And for a few days after that, I played pretty actively. I remember I used to main shotgun back then. I wasn't very good, but I was having fun, and shotgun back then was really strong. So, yeah, I was doing decent as new players go, but realistically not very good. But then something interesting happened. I think this would have been definitely within my first week of playing. I came across I came across a guest actually that was named Mangekyo Sharingan in all caps locks. I remember this very clearly. So I remember that guest. He was so arrogant. He would like when the match would first start, he'd say like, "Oh, I'm gonna destroy you all," and every time he would kill me, he'd say easy and all this, and it was so annoying. But he kept winning, and it was driving me crazy. Every single round, Mangekyo Sharingan would win, and then he would taunt me and say, I remember I was coming in second place, and he would say, "Oh, just give up, stop trying. You're never going to win." Like how like in those movies, how those cartoons and stuff, and those cheesy those cheesy villains, how they are always telling the person like, "Oh, give up, you'll never win." It was like that. Like he was so arrogant, and like I hated this guy, but I couldn't beat him. Like he kept going like, "Oh, you suck. You're never gonna win. Like shotguns for noobs, all this." And he was using Barrett slash no, it's pronounced Barrett, is what I recently found out. So he was using Barrett and RPG, and I was getting destroyed with my, while I was using my shotgun. So, yeah, that drove me crazy. And I remember that Mangekyo Sharingan, he was also saying something weird, which was, I kid you not, he was saying, "I am the great Itachi Sharingan, you will never defeat me." And at this point, I had no idea who Itachi Sharingan was, so I thought this guy was just like, I did not like this guy. He was so arrogant and rude, but at the same time, he was really good at the game and destroying me. So that was my first encounter with Itachi Sharingan slash Mangekyo Sharingan, and yeah, I really hated him. He was so arrogant, but I couldn't beat him, so it was driving me crazy. Later on, I came across him while he was on his main account, Itachi Sharingan, and sure enough, it was the same guy, and he was giving the same taunts and, saying all that stuff again. But, as usual, I couldn't beat him. He was so good, and I remember he would use double Barrett. He would use Barrett and RPG, then he would kill someone who had a Barrett, and then drop his RPG for it, and he was just insane with double Barrett. Like, oh my goodness, I could not stop this guy. He was getting like ratios of 10 all the time in lobbies I was in, and I wasn't even reaching like 20 points. Like, I was getting creamed, and it was driving me crazy. So at this point, I started getting really active because I really, really wanted to beat Itachi Sharingan. And back then, this would have been 2019, going into early 2020. Itachi was very active, so I found him in games all the time. So this like it really kind of lit a fire under my butt and made me want to beat him and get good enough to beat him, which which at the time I wasn't. So I really started getting active around that time and training and doing my best to try and beat him. Of course, Itachi was beating me with the Barrett, so around this time I dropped the shotgun as my main and swapped to the Barrett, and I've been using that as my main since. Of course, even with the Barrett, I still wasn't good enough to beat Itachi, but you know, I kept practicing and improving slowly but surely, and I wouldn't beat Itachi for a long time, but you know, I was improving and definitely putting up more of a fight. He wasn't getting ratios of 10 and stuff in lobbies I was in anymore, and I would get to 20, 25 points. You know, I'd still lose every single time, but I started getting better and started catching up to him slowly. Now, I kept practicing and practicing and practicing, and I was really no-lifing the game at this time because I wanted to improve. And then I came across somebody named Anna. Now, like, right now, I'm friends with both Itachi and Anna, but, you know, this was the past. We were not friends then. When I first met Anna, I thought she was so weird. Like, so basically she would, she'd have, like, a little, like, cult of people following her around. She'd find a bunch of guests, and they'd just go to some weird corner of the map and do just weird activities. Like, oh my goodness, like, I don't even, like, some of the stuff she said was seriously, like, it was weird. I'm friends with Anna now, so I don't want to repeat that stuff, but, like, it was weird. So I remember I thought Anna was just a complete weirdo. I really didn't like her, and I would actually make a point to target her in every single game we played and find her little peaceful cult and attack them because she was so weird in the chat. And of course, Anna hated me for that as well. But there was something very annoying, which is Anna, back then, she was using M79 primarily, but when she actually did start playing, a lot of the time she would beat me, but, like, she would win the match. But, like, I mean, that was the most annoying thing because it's like, you know, like, I hate Itachi, but he destroys me. I hate Anna, but she destroys me. So at this point, I really started getting fed up because, like, there were so many players who, like, they were the most annoying people to me, but they would win. Like, they were so arrogant, cocky, this, that, but then they'd win anyways. So it was, like, I remember at this time, like, I really wanted to get better, and oh my goodness, like, like, I guess, it's probably not a healthy motivator, but yeah, I wanted to get better at Ninja.io because I hated Itachi and I hated Anna, and I wanted to be able to beat them both consistently. Of course, I'm friends with Itachi and Anna now, but back then I was not. I really hated them. So I kept practicing and trying to get better, and of course, this was before I was even Maxson. It was on an old account. It was named, like, Morans or something. But what happened was I entered a lobby. This was in the map Canyon. I remember this match very clearly, actually. And there was a guest named Boom Headshot, in all caps locks, Boom Headshot. And he was in a lobby with Itachi, and he was winning. But the interesting thing was, Boom Headshot wasn't just winning normally, or, you know, playing how most pros played at that time. He was camping. He would find a spot in Canyon, and then he would go into the prone lying down position where he's nice and protected by cover, and back then cover was very overpowered, and he'd just wait for people to come and shoot them. And he was winning that way, and he had a better ratio than Itachi and everything, and everybody in the lobby was raging at him, and they were all cursing at him and all this. Like, it was a really funny scene. He was winning, and everybody was mad at him. And that was so cool for me to see because somebody was beating Itachi. And yeah, so at that time, I decided that I wanted to try and, like, I was never, like, Boom Headshot's, like, apprentice. I never trained under him or even talked to him because Boom Headshot would almost never talk in matches. I remember all he would say is GG. I tried talking to him a lot, but he would just say GG at the end of matches and nothing else. But I wanted to be like Boom Headshot because he was winning by just sitting there and, like, shooting people like, what is the saying? Like, I don't even know the saying, like, something to do with apples or peas. I don't remember the saying, but the point is, he was just sitting there and farming kills so easily, and it was amazing. So at that time, I started getting into camping, which basically right now, like, camping is not as viable right now, but back then cover was so overpowered. Like, you could, if you shuffled in the right way, you could take head on RPG blasts, like literally like point blank, and survive, and then still kill the person who's attacking you. There was no Barrett damage damage accuracy nerf, and cover protected you from basically everything. Like, the only thing people could do back then against a good camper was basically get into their, like, go up to them with a chainsaw or something, but like a good camper will not let that happen. They will shoot them long before the chainsaw user gets close. So, like, yeah, like, it was awesome. I started camping, and I slowly started getting better and mastering camping. At this point, I was still losing to Itachi, and I was still losing to Anna, and I wasn't on boom headshots level, but you know, I was getting there. I was learning to use cover more, and it was a lot of fun. I was getting better and better and better. I remember Anna used to actually, she told me she told me to, like, ask me why I was camping, and was telling me to stop camping, and I was fed up with her at this point. I was like, it's a .io game, let me play how I want to play, like, it's none of your business, because I really didn't like Anna at this point. And, you know, I remember she said, like, well, yeah, like, you can play how you want, but then nobody's going to play with you. And true enough, a lot of people would just leave when I joined at this point, because, you know, I was just camping, and cover was so overpowered then that people really didn't like that. But I did keep camping, and I did it for a long time, about like a year or something. And I did this under quite a few different accounts, and throughout all of this, a lot of the times I was on guests or on another account, but yeah, it was all over the place. I didn't just stick to one account like a lot of people did. But around this point, once I had started to master the art of camping, I made a new account called Maxson. And at this point, I had gotten really good at camping, to the point where I even started to rival Boom Headshot, which was crazy. So, because he was a super good camper. So then I would just camp in every single lobby. I found camping spots for every single map, and sometimes I even found better camping spots than the one that Boom Headshot was using. So I was living it up at this point. And the thing is, I wouldn't always like win the match that I was in, but I would almost always get insanely good ratios, and like almost never die. It was crazy. It's like I would play in a lobby with, say, Itachi, and Itachi might win the match with like a ratio of like 4 or something, but meanwhile I had a ratio of like 25. Like, I would just sit there and shoot people who came, and sure, people avoided me, but I never died, and I could blind shot across the map. It's also worth mentioning that at this point there was a glitch you could do in the game where if you zoomed out your screen, it would like you would actually see more of the map. So I used to zoom out my screen like crazy, and I would sit in these overpowered sandbags where I was basically invincible, and then snipe people from all the way across the map. It was beautiful. Like, you could just like sit in one spot. You're invincible in that spot. You can see everything around you because you're zoomed out, and then you can snipe people who just spawn on the other side of the map. It was so awesome, and I really got used to doing that and got good at doing that, and it was a lot of fun. Like, oh my goodness, that was a lot of fun. The months that I was doing that was probably the most fun I've ever had in Ninja.io, because I was just so overpowered. It was ridiculous. And it was just awesome. And, you know, sometimes people would try to camp in response when I did, but they were never as good at camping as I was, because me and Boom at this point were like the top tier campers. No one else really knew how to use the sandbags properly, because you could really abuse them if you knew how. So me and Boom would just abuse these sandbags like crazy, and yeah, everybody was really getting fed up with it. Interestingly enough, though, at around this time, I started talking more with Itachi and Anna, and actually started becoming friends with them. I don't know why. it doesn't make any sense because at this point everybody started hating me because of how much I camped, and I was becoming very infamous for camping. But for some reason, Itachi and Anna actually, I don't know if they started getting nicer or if I was just being nicer to them, but I actually started to be friends with them at this point, which it doesn't really make sense because, like, when I wasn't camping and everybody was okay with me, then I really hated these guys and I think they hated me back. But when I started camping, then all of a sudden it's reverse. But in any case, Anna and Itachi were the exceptions because almost every single pro player at this time hated my guts. Like, I was like, the thing is, Boom Headshot was very good at camping, but he wasn't nearly as active as me during this time. I would play all the time because I was having so much fun camping. So almost every pro player in the game knew me and hated me because of how much I camped. And it was it was pretty funny actually because like people would just join matches and start insulting me. Like at this point, like I'd say like if I remember correctly, almost every single pro in probably like the top 10, top 20 had insulted me multiple times, like all the way down the leaderboard. Like I had met every single person on the leaderboard and all of them had raged at me for camping because camping and zooming used to be so overpowered back then. And it got to a point where a lot of pro players, like I remember there was a few like Normania and Mr. Noob, and these guys used to be top players back then. And when they saw me, they would just leave the match because they didn't want to play with me because I camped so much. And it was so much fun. Like, because you were basically like invincible. You could just sit there and snipe people from across the map, and they couldn't do anything about it. Like, even if they tried camping in response, you were invincible in your sandbag. So, like, they couldn't kill you by camping. Like, you couldn't kill a camper by camping. You could just try and like cherry pick off, like basically the only way to win in matches against me or Boom back then was to avoid our sandbags and kill all the other players in the lobby. But while you're doing that, like we're getting like the campers have like 0 deaths, so like I didn't even care about losing back then because I was just like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I didn't have the same idea of winning. It's like right now, when I think of a win, I think of, you get 30 kills first and you win the deathmatch. But back then, I thought of a win as, I'm having fun and not dying. So I would like, even if I got to like 25 kills and they won, my ratio would be like 25 or like, like something like that. And it was awesome. So even if I didn't win, I just had a lot of fun, picking off noobs and never dying. And it eventually reached a point where, without a doubt, I was the most infamous player in the game. And it was just because almost every single player hated me because I camped so much. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. Like, the majority of pro players who I would join a match with would just leave because they didn't want to play with me. But it was so much fun though, honestly. Like it's not that like I had fun like making people angry. It was so fun to like join a match and just, be invincible. Like, it was so awesome. Now, at this point, almost every single player in the game hated me. But strangely enough, Itachi and Anna actually didn't hate me anymore, and I didn't hate them anymore. We were on pretty good terms. And but at this point, I don't know why I did this. I regret doing this, but I decided that I wanted to try not camping. So I wish I didn't deactivate it, but I decided to deactivate the Maxson account. So I deactivated Maxson and I made a new account called Speechless. And on this one, I didn't camp at all. But I got bored of that very quickly. So when I got bored of Speechless, I made a new account called Tower, and then I went back to camping, and I kept camping on Tower to this day. Not a lot of people know this, but right now my account barrier is actually Tower. I changed the names a couple of times, like it went from like Tower to Like, I think it was like silent or something with like a dot at the end, and then it went to I think, what was the name? It was let me think. Yeah, right. Maxson was taken because I deactivated my old account, so I made it Maxson with a dot or something, and then after that I went to Barrier. I would have liked to put my name back to Maxson, but since the account was deactivated, it wouldn't let me swap the name back. So that was that. But yeah, so that's the account I have today, and that's Barrier. Now, at this point, I made my guide to camping, which is the first video on my YouTube channel. But almost right after that, sandbags actually got nerfed severely, and the Barrett got a lot of nerfs too, which was the primary weapon of choice when camping. So camping became a lot weaker. After camping got such a heavy hit and nerf, I changed my playstyle to kind of like, I think I call it like camping like a tank or something. So now it's like, I'll use cover when it's there, but rotate a lot and move a lot more. So I honestly don't even consider it to be camping, like not like it was. So yeah, like that's that today. And yeah, now I am a captain of elite snipers, and I mean, camping will always have a special place in my heart. And honestly, like at first I thought the sandbag changes, like, I was thinking like, oh, they'd be good for the game and all that, and like I'm sure they are good for the game, but I really miss old sandbags because it was just so much fun to literally be invincible. So I do miss that, but what can you do? So yeah, that is the story of Maxson the camper, I guess. By far, I was right now I'm most well known as Barrier because of my YouTube channel, but before that I was most well known when I had the name Maxson, and a lot of people hated me. It was not like a positive, like, oh, hi Maxson. It was like, F you, Maxson, leave this lobby. And I remember when I used to be Maxson, people actually used to threaten to report me to the developer to get me banned, like all the time. Like all the time I'd get threats like, oh, I'm gonna report you to the dev, he's gonna ban you, you ruin the game for everybody else, blah blah blah. But I was having so much fun, so I didn't care, and the dev never banned me. But yeah, I guess that's the whole story. So I started out I guess being spurred into action and wanting to improve by Itachi and how arrogant he was, and later that became Anna, and Anna wasn't arrogant or anything. I thought she was so weird and I really didn't like her, but that changed, and yeah, then everybody else started hating me, but I became friends with Anna and Itachi, and I'm still friends with Anna and Itachi to this day. And yeah, and then all the other stuff happened. So I guess that's pretty much the complete story of Maxson the camper. Yeah, I think I hit all the important points, so thank you for watching / listening, and I hope you have a nice day.